All right, so now it's the time where I ask you guys what your favorite was, first and second place. From what we saw this morning, Doc Stocks, License 123, 15.5, Happily, Hanuku, Meet Cute, Talk, Trust Egg. Actually, let's just start with the second group we just did, and we'll pick the number one there, sorry. And I think we started with Trust Egg, correct? So let's do your favorite out of the second group, which was Trust Egg, instant trusts set up instantly with no 5 or 10 or 15,000 lawyer fees. Not that I'm bitter. Offlane, Offlane is Flipboard without the Wi-Fi connection. Topics is political. LinkedIn, Minbox, really sexy looking future social email box, and AdFreak, classifieds, socialized. Which one was your favorite, Gina?
I liked Minbox.
I liked Minbox best. Okay. Sandeep?
Minbox.
David?
Minbox.
Tim?
If they could get it right and nail the user acquisition and the experience first off, it would be Minbox.
Matt?
I think Minbox has got a long way to go, but I think they're the right way.
Naval?
I wouldn't use it, but Minbox.
David?
Just to be different, I'm going to choose Trust Egg because
Okay.
I think there's an opportunity to kind of create a Kickstarter for college. You know, there's so much middle class anxiety about how they're going to pay for college. If they could get the Kickstarter features right, like recruiting other people to help pay for your kids' education, that would be powerful, I think.
And Mark Pesci from our grand jury, second year in a row, thank you for the contribution, mentioned they might want to connect to the All-Tuition API. What was your second favorite one, David, out of that group? Trust Egg, Offlane, Topics, Minbox, AdFreak. Topics is politics, yeah.
Probably Minbox. That's the one I would use. Yeah.
Matt, what was your second?
AdFreak.
AdFreak, okay, great. Sandeep,
Trust Egg.
Trust Egg would be your second. Gina? Second behind Minbox.
If they can get it right and address the why does this look like a phishing site to me, Trust Egg.
Right. So and design is critical, and trust seals, etc. David, what was your second place after Minbox?
With all due respect to Topics, also was Trust Egg. I think Topics is great, but I'm a startup guy. So.
Okay, but you did like Topics as well, so you're taking a point off them.
Take Trust Egg.
You're taking Trust Egg. Okay, Tim.
As a user, I would use Offlane.
Great, awesome. And Naval.
Yeah, I would use Offlane as well. I just fear it's a transitionary technology between the OS providers and increasing Wi-Fi coverage. But I would also have to go with Trust Egg just because it's great. You can just get people to pay subscription money.
Naval, of these, which one would raise money easiest on AngelList?
Out of the entire set?
Yeah.
I would think it might be either Minbox or 15.5. The problem with 15.5 is it's hard to get across sort of some of the up and down virality and the fanning out. So I think they would have a hard time pitching and presenting that in a short format. Minbox is very easy to pitch because it's highly, highly visual. But there, I think most investors will want to see just that initial bit of traction. They'll want to say, hey, show me users using it.
You mentioned now visual really drives adoption on AngelList. What else?
I think investors care about visual in general.
Why?
Most investors decide in the first few minutes whether they like you enough to pursue funding or not. It's usually a very gut feel decision. So the cover matters, and 15.5 it takes a second to get into. You really have to think about it. You have to look at it. It's all text. It's not like sexy and flowy.
Got it. So if 15.5 made a more beautiful version, it might actually work towards their advantage.
It's one of those rare companies where rather than just make a more beautiful version, they might be better off sort of articulating how it spreads and saves time and those kinds of things, right? Most companies that say just skip to the product, that's one where it's actually like, show me the deck.
Okay.
We're not all that shallow as investors, Naval. Looking at the book by the cover, but I do agree the presentation is important. The product is important, but understanding what size of market a company is going after in the enterprise, oftentimes when you're trying to solve things inside of companies, the number one first order issue for the company is not necessarily all of the design. The product needs to be solid, but it's thinking about the workflow and how that actually slots into the organization.
David, how important is design today when you're making decisions of letting people join Techstars? When you see a beautiful product, does that get them further than having a beautiful idea?
Yeah, of course. I mean, execution matters, right? And I think it's a critical skill for any consumer product today.
But people can buy that so easily. So how do you filter against somebody just hiring a great designer for $1,000 to make it? Or is that the point?
It's okay if they have the $1,000, they respect the need for it. So it's okay that they do that.
So in a poker way, it's a tell. If you don't spend the money on design or a great looking product, you're probably not worth backing because you don't get it?
Eventually, I'm happy to invest in a very ugly thing. I've done it a lot. It's just, I want them to understand the value of that.
Got it. Okay. What was your overall favorite? Now we'll go for both groups from DocStock on. And if you want to say 1.0 or 2.0, the 2.0 competitors were DocStock and Topics and their politics. All the rest were 1.0. Correct, Tyler? Yeah. So you can pick your 2.0, or if that's your favorite overall, you can say that too. But what was your favorite overall from the 2 sessions if you had to only pick one?
I still like license 1, 2, 3.
Okay. And then if you had a second one after that, that wasn't a 2.0?
The Minbox.
Okay, great.
I would say 15.5. We run a business that has hundreds of employees, and I see the value there. And we also see the transition to the enterprise. People needing these kind of applications. And I think if they took some of David's advice and money and integrate with Yammer, it's sort of.
Hey, but speaking of money, you've got a fabulously successful company that's highly profitable. Would you build their mobile apps in exchange for some equity?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I'll talk to them.
So that's
about
a yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. You work it out backstage, but I was just thinking, my goodness, you love this product so much and you want to use it for your 150-person mobile team, and there's nobody better to design it than you, and you could take equity, and they need to get going and could serve the money that Dave's giving them. That could work out pretty well. Matt, which one does Microsoft most want to buy?
Well, it's me, not Microsoft.
Right, I know, but you work at Microsoft, so which one does Microsoft most want to buy?
So we already have a partnership with Jason, so I won't say we're going to buy them. But I think License 123 is clearly the leader from the morning, and then I still like Henuku. I think that they've got, from a long-term play, if they get it right, I mean, you're talking about generations from now, people could still be using the service.
When Sandeep finishes Henuku's Windows 8 tablet app, will you bundle it there and maybe buy the first $250,000 licenses?
I'm already, there are 3 companies here we will go offer into our early beta to get access, so they can get access to the new software. I want to talk about Windows Phone 7 as well.
Yeah.
Got them down.
And how is the tablet effort going? I mean, I hear there's amazing
What's
things.
the tablet effort? I don't think we announced a tablet effort. I think we announced the next generation of the operating system, which is going really well.
Well, people are saying the tablet is really slick.
One of the form factors that we will certainly show. So we're going to have we'll be introducing it to the startup crowd here on April 4th.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. We've got, DocStock was one of the companies that we had on stage just a couple weeks ago. So I was a long-time Mac user when I was at Sun. I love this operating system. This is very cool.
In order for Microsoft to compete, are you going to have to make your own hardware and a complete solution? And
yeah, I don't think so. I think we've got a large enough partner space. The other thing you got to look at is worldwide, right? I mean, are we going to build hardware that's going to be perfect for the China market? No, we think that our Chinese partners are going to be able to do that really well. It's the same thing worldwide.
Okay, David?
Well, now that I'm an investor in 15.5, I'll take the opportunity to plug them again.
What kind of terms should you
it's We actually have the terms that people are asking for in an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, there you go.
Which I think, Naval, at this point, am I a dealer broker and am I going to jail by the SEC standards? I know that they're putting you in jail as well for raising money for so many startups.
No comment.
No comment is right.
Well, 15.5 is the one that I actually want to try today, to see if it's ready to be rolled out to my company, because I want to actually use it.
Right.
So.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
And did you have a second runner-up, maybe, who you really liked?
I guess as a user, I would try Minbox. I might try Happily.
Great.
I might try TrustEgg.
Cool.
Yeah.
Who didn't give me their favorite? Go ahead, David.
Yeah. I would say Minbox and License 123 for sure.
Yeah.
I think Minbox for me would be just a lot more fun to work on, so I'll pick them.
Yeah. Okay. And you have agreed to accept into Techstars for the first time one of the 50 companies on stage here.
Yes.
Big round of applause for that.
Yes.
And people may not know this, but Techstars has been so successful now, you don't just get $20,000 on the way in or $18,000 on the way in, the ramen, sort of noodles. There's $100,000 convertible note on graduation that's been done by a fund? Explain that.
No, it's actually it's immediately on acceptance, and it's what's interesting about it is it comes from a dozen different VCs nationally, so it's very broad support.
Wow, so every company coming into Techstars, 118 dimes.
Yep,
It's big money.
getting there.
Has that changed the nature of the accelerator? Do you now get a different type of person who can, like maybe in the early days you could only get people who would be willing to have 4 guys or gals living in a studio apartment eating ramen noodles, but does this open it up to people who maybe have families or are older entrepreneurs who need to actually make a salary?
It does a little bit more, right? It's enough money to maybe move somewhere and temporarily be there, relocate your family if needed. So it does open it up and make it a little more diverse.
How many cities is Techstars in today?
We're in 5.
And they are?
Boulder, Boston, Seattle, New York, and we're down in San Antonio doing a cloud-focused program.
A what focus?
Cloud infrastructure-focused program.
Is that in connection with Rackspace or something? Or
It's a bunch of players from the cloud community. It's Azure and SoftLayer and Rackspace and others.
Tim, Sequoia Capital, I know you brought the checkbook. Who's going to get a check today?
Well, I can tell you who's going to get me as a beta tester. I'd love to try out Minbox for the promise. And, for out of the 2.0 companies, I think, License 123 has a lot of promise.
So definitely you'll take a follow-up meeting with Minbox.
Sure.
Okay, well, there you go. We got a meeting down at Sand Hill for Minbox. That's awesome. Naval, which one will you personally endorse on AngelList, also known as $2 million oversubscribed angel round?
So I can't personally endorse anyone, legally speaking, but talk to my lawyer about that.
Yes.
But I really like
What will you
both.
post a comment on, which is the equivalent on AngelList?
I like Minbox a lot because I think they're going after great space and it's naturally viral, and their execution so far seems very good, even down to picking the name. But 15.5, I think, nice Yammer integration could make money. If David's in, then, I'd probably have to look hard at following him.
So you see somebody like David Sachs, obviously, who's made a lot of great
Well,
investments.
if David can play Kingmaker, right? It's like Mark Zuckerberg investing in Zynga, right? So it's a little unfair.
It's a little unfair. I like that. Unfair is what we're looking for in investments, correct? Okay, Tyler, who was the most improved? You did, everybody knows Tyler Crowley. Tyler did the first 2 rehearsals with everybody. I did the next 2 with him. But Tyler, you're pretty good at taking a look at this. Who was the most improved from the rawness that we started with just 4, 5, 6 weeks ago with these startups out of the group?
Minbox did quite a bit of change. I'm not mic'd.
Oh, okay. You're not mic'd. Grab Naval's mic real quick, or get a handheld. Let me go through the audience now. I'm going to do a quick survey of the top ones. I'm going to actually, that would be unfair, wouldn't it? This is where a survey tool would have come in handy. I should have used SurveyMonkey for this. Let me just go through the top.
Okay, I'm back.
Tyler's back. Which one was most
So
improved, Tyler?
Minbox actually went through quite a bit of change from when we first saw them only 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I think even through the rehearsals, the product continued to, evolve is one way to say it, and refine is another way to say it. It got more and more refined. And
What were your favorites from the morning today? Any favorites, other favorites from the morning?
personal favorites? The License 123, I think, is awesome. What else? Yeah, Minbox. I know people right away that I want to friends that should be using that. So.
Hey, since I have all these incredible investors and entrepreneurs up here, we're going to do a mini panel for 5 minutes. Tim, how has the emergence of AngelList, this is sort of open to Tim and David, how has the emergence of AngelList changed what's going on in angel investing today for folks like Sequoia Capital, et cetera?
Well, I think it's like some of the startups here earlier today who were saying that they wanted to, through a little bit of structure, really help, put something that already happens in a little bit of an unstructured way, and sometimes where there is friction, knowing which companies are out there but for whom they don't have a particular connection or who didn't know how to get in touch with us. Our doors have always been open, and we are constantly looking for the unknown startups. I often tell entrepreneurs that the way that I found out about Sequoia Capital, I just cold emailed and started speaking to a couple partners over there, and that's how I ended up working at Sequoia Capital. I think things like AngelList put in place a structure where now people feel that there's a little less friction to do something like that. They can still email directly, that's fine, but this puts in place something which allows them to do that en masse.
Famously, Naval, Bryce from, what is Bryce's venture firm?
OATV?
OATV, yeah, O'Reilly's one, famously shut down his AngelList and complained about it. It's just ridiculous. And then did he start it back up again? And is he back on? And you're tracking his IP address, obviously. Has he got a suit at him? How is he getting deal flow?
We're fine with Bryce. I mean, Bryce's initial criticism, which was a valid one, was AngelList started out extremely small. It was 25 investors. And then as it grew, there were a lot of people who didn't know each other. And there was a while where we didn't have a real social graph in place. So you were seeing activity from people you really didn't know. So he felt that was, the wrong kind of social proof, and he's correct about that. So over time, we've made it more of a true network where you get more stuff associated with people you listen to and believe in.
So David, how has it impacted just overall? I mean, I'm assuming every Techstars company is now listed on AngelList, and you also have your demo days where you bring investors together. Is the demo day becoming antiquated now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think overall AngelList is a super important innovation, and to their credit, they've done an amazing job really reacting to the important issues and focusing on them, and it just gets better. I think it's sort of analogous to our demo day, where it's sort of your coming out party for a lot of companies. And interestingly, there's still a dynamic with some of the top companies, and it'd be interesting to talk about that. Many of the top Techstars companies never need to be there because they have that demo day resource. Right. And so they don't all go there still. Right. And I think we've had that conversation.
Yeah, so one of the things we're actually working on is we're building private networks for people like Techstars who want to kind of circulate their companies internally with known investors before they put it out to the broader world.
Now, is it true that Y Combinator has banned companies from being on AngelList? Is that because I know I don't see them there, and what's going on with that?
Yeah, that's not true. A number of the YC companies were on AngelList before they ever got to YC, and a number of them come on there afterwards. I think their stipulation, which is a valid one, is don't go on there before our demo day, because they don't want the companies to get financed before they get a chance to pitch at the demo day, or that would sort of hurt the demo day experience.
Is that in the best interest, in your mind, of the startups? It doesn't feel that way to me.
I think a lot of incubators actually have that kind of a rule where they want to make sure that the best companies aren't snatched up before the demo day. Otherwise, it sort of reduces the incentive for an investor to show up.
So David, explain this issue to us, because to me, if I'm the founder, it's my goddamn company. I'll raise money how I please.
Absolutely, and that's the first thing we say. It's your company. Do whatever you want. Here's the issue: is that it's a very, very, very effective tool. I would say when you have a start on your round, right, in the order of a third to half of it. I don't know if you'd agree with that. It is not as effective, particularly for our companies, when you don't. So going in with zero committed, raising $1 million, what's going on? That's a Techstars company. It's a negative signal for them, we think.
So it's an optics issue.
So we explain that to them and then let them choose.
Yeah, I would say it varies. So companies that come on that have some traction can usually get funded without even having a lead. They find leads like Matrix and Andreessen and Greylock, and have done deals on AngelList that they've led. But you need traction. You need to be a little further along. If you're just launched or pre-launched and you don't have any real traction, then you need to have either a super branded team or a technically very unique product, or it helps to have some existing commitments.
The other thing is ultimately what's in the best interest of the entrepreneur. So we're trying to help them understand that. Will that be the best way for them to raise money at the best valuation? Right? We're thinking about that with them, compared to a demo day, for example.
Yeah, fundraising is still very difficult, and so I think the entrepreneur should use every tool in their scalpel. They should reach out to their personal networks. They should take the guidance from the incubators. They should be on AngelList. They should use every tool. Right now we have 21,000 company profiles on AngelList that are active and maintained. Wow. And only 1,000 of those have raised money. And of the remaining 20,000, I think only 2,000 have even tried. The rest are just sort of maintaining a Crunchbase style profile that's community updated. And so we're rolling out more of about.me style beautiful pages for the companies to maintain. We also just launched our recruiting, where we're taking all the talent from the unfunded companies and giving them an opportunity to join the funded companies. And we sort of sneakily soft launched it about a day ago. Already made 160 mutual matches. including for Path and good companies like that that are not raising money, but they're out there recruiting.
Gina, you've been at this game for a long time, built a couple of great companies. How have things changed in terms of the Valley, and is there a bubble now, and what impact does that have, just on talent, resources, et cetera? I mean, it was really hard to raise angel funding just 10 years ago. To even be able to identify who were angel investors was impossible, let alone the emergence of Techstars and Y Combinator and other opportunities for folks.
I mean, I think generally speaking, entrepreneurship has gotten a lot more sophisticated, and I think that that's in part because of great resources and the fact that you have so much more transparency today than you had 10 years ago or 5 years ago even. So I think that's a great thing for entrepreneurs. If anything, it just changes the dynamics where I do think that, because there is just a continued surge of new companies, and I don't see any reason why that's going to stop. We're all competing for people's time. And I think one of the nice things about things like AngelList or even events like this is that you get to see the fact that you're not competing necessarily with another email client, for example. You're competing to get above the noise and get above, it is as important to define what your user need is and what your market is that you're going after as it is to, have an amazing product and an amazing emotional, connection to the people that are using your product. So I feel like, if anything, some of the things that have gotten so much easier, the ultimate winners are users or people that get access and exposure to much more interesting, compelling products that represent, 10, 15 years of experience that gets built on top of everyone else's experience. And I think that that's a really good thing.
David, you've been successful with PayPal and now with Yammer in 2 bubbles, or 2, let's say, cycles. The last one was clearly a bubble. This one, it's debatable. Is it a bubble or not? Because the companies today have real revenue, not just real promise or real page views. So I'll just ask you bluntly, is it bubble or no bubble?
I don't think we're in a bubble right now. I mean, I think this isn't the best it's ever been. It's not the worst it's ever been. It's sort of somewhere in the middle, I think.
What's happening in terms of the number of companies? I mean, just running a company in Silicon Valley is getting very difficult and very competitive, and the players are getting very large with the ability to compensate on a very high level. Then you layer on patent trolls and these other issues. I mean, is entrepreneurship for small companies going to become more difficult because of all this and fighting for resources?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the scarce resource now is not money, it's engineering bandwidth. And so, even in the late 90s during the first bubble, it was pretty hard to raise money, and CEOs typically were somebody who was finance oriented and maybe had connections on Sand Hill Road. Now you can have 2 engineers starting a company. They don't really have to, be especially knowledgeable about financing or anything like that because of AngelList and the ability to just quickly raise money. So it's so the balance of power has really shifted from VCs and financiers to the people who can actually make the software. I mean, it's so hard to recruit engineers. Those are the people who determine whether your idea is worthy enough to be built, essentially.
Expand that a little bit. The engineers decide if it's worthy built by a function of them taking the job?
Exactly. Right, exactly. Because it's harder to raise engineers than raise money, basically.
Got it. So recruiting engineers for your vision is harder than getting the money to hire the engineers.
Right, exactly. So so what that means is that the people who are determining what gets built is shifting from, again, from the people with money to the people who are spending their time. This is one of the reasons why if you're a founder who can actually build your own product, you have a big advantage because you can do the first version yourself. You don't have to hire anybody. Once you have the first version, then you can get more people to follow you. So anyway, I think that's overall a very healthy development.
Yeah. Matt, what's your take? I mean, from Microsoft's perspective, you guys have been much more active in getting involved with startups earlier, and you went from being, this sort of Microsoft was looked at as this huge Borg, and people use those terms. And now people are kind of like, oh, Microsoft, we're rooting for them. I mean, people are rooting for Microsoft
great to
again.
be the underdog, right?
Yeah.
So I've only been at Microsoft 2.5 years. I came because of the change. I came because of a guy by the name of Dan Lewin, who kind of runs the Valley for Microsoft. He brought me over. I was at Sun during the acquisition. He said, you don't want to be there anymore. You're right. And so in coming to Microsoft, my role was really to kind of try to be that underdog and be friendly to as many of the incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces, et cetera. We've got a great partnership with Techstars where we're actually putting engineers into Techstars, like in the Cloud Accelerator, saying, how can we help you? Not, here's Azure and this is why you're going to love it, but rather, oh, you're interested in infrastructure? You got a trade-off to make. How do you want to make it? How can we help you do that? The other thing I'll say is, so I was at a couple startups during the first bubble here in the Valley, and the thing that I think that is different now is we imported engineering talent from both around the world and around the country the first time. Those people haven't come in the same numbers. If you look at the total number of engineering talent sitting in the Valley today, it's less than it was during the bubble, and that's because when those people left, they said they're never coming back because the job market really did tank. So there's still upside here. We can import more talent. And the question is, I don't know if anybody was around 11 years ago. 101 was a traffic jam every afternoon. Traffic is still better today than it was 11 years ago.
And Google has gotten hyper active with Google Ventures.
Yep.
I don't know if people realize how many people are working there and how many investments they're making, but I can't tell you the number of angel investments I've made recently where they're going to a meeting with Google a couple of days later. Where's Microsoft in all this? Is Microsoft going to launch Microsoft Ventures and start pumping some money into these startups?
It's a really good question. I'll say the answer is no. I think Microsoft takes a different view of this, right? So our view is we're going to support the community, look for where innovation is, try to help those people with technology through the BizSpark program, through the Bing programs we've got. But the notion of actually taking an investment, very rare for Microsoft to do. And I actually think it's the right thing. If you look at a board level, if I've got to make a decision, if I'm going to pump $10 million through a venture connection versus $10 million back into product development, how do I make that trade-off at the board level and make a good decision, right? There are reasons why companies like Intel and a bunch of others do early stage investment because they're trying to goose the innovation side. Google's taking a different view. Their view right now is we're smarter. We can do this with numbers, so we'll be able to pick the winners. I don't know. A lot of people have been in this business a long time. That's a hard thing to do.
Great. Sandeep, what's your take on the sort of space right now? You're helping people catch up by building out their mobile strategies and stuff like that. And some of the biggest companies look to you guys to fill that gap.
Yeah, just surprising just over the last 2 days, but what we're seeing with companies now is sort of people that take sort of a mobile first approach is really advantageous for them, though. The paradigm has changed. What I tell a lot of people, what happened, there's a big transition that occurred. You used to have desktop computers at home, or even at work. We went to notebooks, but the software was all the same. Microsoft, everybody was happy. Now with tablets and smartphones, actually the software has changed. And it was surprising here, we saw a few companies, but not enough, I think, and people really focusing on mobile-first applications. So I think that's a really, greenfield market where, the platform is brand new, the interface paradigm is brand new, the usage paradigm of the device is brand new. And I think people that, and companies that really embrace it do well. Last year we saw Starbucks is a great example where they did over $100 million of recharges on their, on their mobile app. And so that's an example of a company that really embraced mobile, put a big investment in, built out something, and they're actually, seeing the fruits of that. And I think it'd be exciting to see more companies do it, taking that approach.
I am so glad I stopped to do this mini ad hoc panel. This was incredible information, I think.